Zathura. How do you say it?
I think it's pronounced Zathura. I think
Zathura. Zathura.
Zathura. Yeah.
Have you ever seen it? Welcome back to the Escape Podcast. Today we're talking about Jumanji.
There's a game called Jumanji that has a life all its own.
You have no idea what you are getting yourself into.
An ancient game where the primitive spirit of the jungle can leap out and take hold of your world.
I've seen things you can't even imagine. Things you can't even see.
And those who have ever played the game know the dangers that lie within. TriStar Pictures presents Robin Williams. Jumanji.
So how's it going, Josh?
Oh, pretty good. How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. So Jumanji will be turning 30 years this December. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to look back at some things that happened in 1995.
Sounds like a good idea.
The auction web, later known as eBay, first came out.
Amazing.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame opened in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
Microsoft launches the successful Windows 95.
Interesting. Never would have thought it came out that year.
Some of the top films that year were Toy Story, Die Hard with a Vengeance, GoldenEye, Pocahontas, Batman Forever, and Apollo 13. Some of the top selling albums that year were Cracked Rear View by Hootie and the Blowfish, Crazy Sexy Cool by TLC, Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette, and Daydream by Mariah Carey. And in December of 95, Calvin and Hobbes, which started in November of 1985, had its last comic.
Interesting. Never really got into those, but yeah, I'm aware of those.
The one I remember the most was the one about the monster under the bed.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Right. So Jumanji came out December 15th, 1995. It was made on a budget of $65 million and made $262 million at the box office. The critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave it 52%, while the audiences gave it 63%.
Ooh.
I'm kind of surprised about that myself.
Interesting.
It was directed by Joe Johnston, whose directing credits include Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, the live action scenes of Pagemaster, Jurassic Park 3, Hidalgo, The Wolfman, and Captain America. He has also done special effects and design work on the Star Wars trilogy, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the Temple of Doom, Howard the Duck, Batteries Not Included, The Iron Giant, Battlestar Galactica, and the Ewok films.
Batteries Not Included. That's a throwback. I remember that one. I haven't thought about that movie in years.
We'll have to look at it sometime. The film stars Robin Williams, Bonnie Hunt, Kirsten Dunst, Bradley Pierce, Jonathan Hyde, and David Alan Grier.
Ah, yes.
So the film was based on the 1981 children's book by Chris Van Allsburg, who, by the way, is a Michigan guy.
Yes, I know that.
Allsburg's other notable works include The Polar Express and Zathura, if I'm saying that right. Zathura is a 2002 sequel book to Jumanji.
I think it might actually be pronounced Zathura.
Sure.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It's a funky word.
Yeah. In the book, Jumanji is the name of the golden city in the middle of the jungle that the player must try to reach. Okay. Allsburg says the word Jumanji is a Zulu word for many effects. The film has spawned a 3-season animated series from 1996, the film version of Zathura in 2005, and 2 sequels, Welcome to the Jungle and The Next Level in 2017 and 2019, respectively. Robin Williams wasn't the first choice to play Alan Parrish. Other actors considered were Bruce Willis, Tom Hanks, Dan Aykroyd, and Chevy Chase. In 2011, Robin Williams recorded the audiobook for the 30th anniversary of the book. Robin Williams is actually 5 years older than David Alan Grier.
Oh, no, that's interesting.
Yeah. The Jumanji board game seen in the film was sold in eBay in 2014 for $60,800. And one of the things we like to try to do on the show here is try to find a Star Trek connection. So I have two. Daryl Henriquez, if I'm saying his name correctly, played the gun shop owner in the film, played the Romulan ambassador in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
Oh my gosh, you are correct, sir. I just put that together now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Kirsten Dunst played a character in the season 7, episode 7, episode Dark Page of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Interesting. I'm trying to think if there's any others.
I'm sure there's people probably behind the scenes,
but like no main actors on there.
Not that I'm aware of, besides those two.
Okay.
All right. So, Dave, when do you first remember seeing this film, or what do you remember about first seeing it?
So I think I can recall when I saw this movie at the theater. I went with my dad and my cousin and my younger brother, Matthew. And I just remember going there, and it was like the middle of a day, kind of, we've got nothing else to do. We went to the theater in the mall.
Southland?
Yeah, it was a Southland.
Southland Mall?
Yeah, the Southland Mall theater.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was a I forgot about that theater. What was it?
Yeah.
Was that a Star?
No, it was not a Star Theater. The Star Theater in that area was just down the road from the mall theater. But
was it actually connected to the mall, or was it like separate? I forget.
Oh yeah, it was right in the front door there. It was connected, and you could go in. And
what's that area now?
Right
now
that
became Borders. That eventually became Borders, and
then it eventually became Borders, and then they eventually turned it into some kind of retail shop. Now I think they sell clothes or shoes or something in that area. But yeah, that was my memory of seeing it, because it was just the.
And do you remember liking it when you first came out, or?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was so it became kind of like this thing where I was so borderline obsessed with this movie, because we saw the movie and I just couldn't stop thinking about some of the scenes that really stuck with me, like specifically the scene later in the movie when he's getting sucked into the floor like quicksand. I thought that was really cool. The merchandise that followed the release of this movie, it's funny, as much as I loved the movie, I didn't really have much of any official like toys or merchandise.
Were there action figures for this?
I don't know for sure.
I don't remember that.
I remember they had like an officially released board game, which really just looked like your standard board game.
Yeah.
And but so I really wanted the game that you see in the movie. I really wanted like something like that. And since they didn't sell anything like that at the time, I think now they do, but back then they didn't. So what my brother Matthew and I would do is we would get, like, if we ordered pizza, we would take the empty pizza box afterwards, and we would tape it shut on the one side where it opens.
Yeah.
And then we would get like a pair of scissors and cut it open down the middle so that it would open up in the middle like the game in the movie. And we would constantly do this with pizza boxes, and we would draw like inside of it, and we'd write like the inscriptions on the the parts that open. And we would just do this, and I think doing this is what led to my dad finally just making us a wood box replica of the game for us to have. Like,
and he did a great job on that too.
Yes, so it is, the only thing is it's like huge compared to the movie version. But anyway, like
I would have never known.
And he did this as a surprise Christmas present.
Okay.
So what happened is I clearly remember one day he came home from work, and he was like, "Hey, let's watch Jumanji." And I was like, okay. Like, because I think, I just wasn't really too like used to him wanting to watch a movie with us that we liked. Usually we would especially like immediately after him coming home from work around dinner time, it was odd. So
did you guys own it, or did you have to go rent it?
Oh, we owned it. So
okay.
I remember this happening, and he was like sitting in his chair taking notes, and I was like, what is happening? He was like, I remember watching him with like this notepad, and he had the remote for the VCR, and he would take notes, and then he'd pause, and he'd take notes, and then he'd stop writing, and then he'd play again, and then they'd show the game, and then he'd pause it, and then he'd take more notes, and then he'd resume the play. And it was so funny like watching this happen, because it was confusing, and I had no clue. I had no clue what was, and then so what eventually happened is I found out he and a guy from work, they both collaborated on this together. Like one of them did one thing and the other one did the other thing. And so once they got all that stuff together and like nailed down, and I remember there were times where he'd be working on it in the basement at my house in his little workroom down there, but he would tell us not to come in there. And he worked on it at the house, or sometimes he'd take it to work with him and work on it there in his if he had extra time there. And there it was. He made this wood box just like the game wood box, and it would open just like in the movie. And he stained it in different like types of stain, and he painted it, and he got markers and like other things, and he even got like, there were some parts of the game that I don't know if it was like a mistake or if he did this on purpose, but he used liquid whiteout in some areas for like some of the windy paths on the main board. And so he did that, and he had all those detailed notes of what the game looked like in the movie. And so he was able to write word for word on the game inside what it said on the inside of the game in the movie. And it blew me away. Like I opened this thing on Christmas, might have been Christmas of 95. What was the month of the movie when it came out?
December of 95. So probably Christmas.
So 96. It was probably Christmas 96 then.
Yeah.
But I remember opening this thing, and man, I was just like, so I had no words. I was like, how is this possible? Because I knew this wasn't available anywhere,
right? Like
commercially or anything officially. So I opened it up, and like so and here's the thing too. He had kind of taken bits and pieces from other games and put them into this game. Like he had taken a couple of dice from his old Risk board game, and he put that as the dice for this game. He did buy apparently he bought the commercially made available officially released board game just so that we could get the cards, because it came with cards,
right? Yeah,
for that one. And it came with that little centerpiece that was like this plastic little like window that you would stick the card inside of, and it would reveal a hidden message on the card. So he put that into the wooden version that he made for me and Matthew. And let's see what else. I think he may have harvested some other bits and pieces from another couple board games.
So he really Frankenstein this thing.
He did. Most of it.
He did a great job. It looks, every time I come over your house, I want to see it.
Yeah. And what's funny is when you open it right now, it still smells like fresh wood stain. And every time I open this thing and I get a whiff of it, it just smells, and the smell of it just takes me back to the day I opened it. And it's amazing. It's just
you'll have to throw some pictures of that on our,
yes, I will. Just last week,
Facebook and Instagram.
Yes. Just last week, my boys and I were playing this board game because they watched the movie with me in preparation for this, and then afterwards they were like, "Hey, we want to play it." So I got it out of the closet, dusted it off, and we actually played.
That thing should be on display.
Still have it. Yeah.
Now I remember, so this was 95. Obviously, Jurassic Park was a big deal.
Yeah.
I often say what I hear about people who saw the original Star Wars in the 70s, how it was such a big deal. I think that's what, in my opinion, Jurassic Park was to me, at least, and probably others. It was like the big movie. But
Jurassic Park, yes, Jurassic Park defined our generation, I think.
So, at the time, we CGI seemed like this thing that seemed incredible that could, make things more happen. But also I liked how, in retrospect, they at the time were really blending practical effects, puppets, people in suits, animatronics with CGI. It was kind of, the best of both worlds. But they did do a lot of practical effects in this. But anyway, I was excited to see it because that was like, it seemed so cutting edge at the time.
Yeah.
And I think it was my neighbor where I lived. We went and saw it, and I remember being really into it and really liking it. I think I saw it for her and her mom. But were you aware of the book before this? Because I don't think I was.
I knew it was a book. I was vaguely familiar with it.
So you never read the book?
I don't think I had ever read the book, no.
Okay. So for this time, I actually found the Robin Williams read audiobook that he recorded in 2011.
He did that in 2011? I was not aware of this at all.
Were you not paying attention to my trivia? I said
no. I'm saying before you told us about that in the trivia, I did not know about this.
Yeah. So for the 30th anniversary of the book, 2011, he recorded the audiobook for the book.
Okay.
So I listened to that recording.
I'll have to check
it
out.
It is a lot different. So there is no Alan Parrish. I think the kids in it are Judy and Peter, but there's no death of the parents. There's no Van Pelt. Like I said, there's no one gets pulled into the jungle. It's just things coming out.
Okay.
Like the book has a python. The book has a volcano eruption and like all this kind of stuff. And everything also, I might add, is contained to the house. Nothing leaks out into the town. In the book.
No, that's interesting.
The closest thing to a person coming out was actually a tour guide, or like basically someone that would be taking you out on safari and like showing you, that's the only person that comes out of the book.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, the game in the book. But yeah, so I never personally read it. But like I said, I had the audiobook read, and it's cool because he's doing his voices. Like he's kind of, how Robin Williams did like different voices, like when he would portray like an older woman or whatever. He's like doing little voices. It was good.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember liking it. It was one of those movies like I didn't really revisit for a long time after that. I never owned it until maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago now.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't one I saw like a whole lot.
Yeah, I remember. So I saw it in the theater, and then obviously we owned it. But then I have a kind of a funny memory of being on vacation with my family. I think we were down in Tennessee or something like that, and we were at a big, huge hotel, and we had just got to our room, and we're all there's just like taking our luggage and putting it and getting settled into our hotel room. And instantly, bam, I hop on the hotel room TV and I was like, oh, they have Jumanji. And I clicked it, not realizing that I
had to pay for it.
Like I ordered it and paid for it. And it starts playing. And my dad saw that and he got pretty upset because he was like, how much is that?
How much was it? Do you remember?
Like I like immediately he stopped it, called the front desk and told them to cancel the order. I think they did because it happened right away, and he acted right away. But I think it was like a $30 purchase to rent this movie. Or
did he hide the remote after that?
It was crazy. I don't think so, but that was pretty funny. That's a funny memory I have about it.
Yeah. So the movie version really did expand upon the book. Personally, maybe I'm a little biased. I think the story for the movie is definitely more interesting than the story for the book.
Okay.
So in this movie, we have some time jumps, we see a little bit about what's it, 1869 at first. The two boys, Caleb and Benjamin,
and
trying
then
to give
1969.
You jump 100 years ahead to 1969. And, in this one, like I said, Alan gets sucked into the game. But because Sarah doesn't play anymore, he's stuck there for 26 years until he's set free in 1995 by, Peter specifically, who rolls a 5.
Right.
And of course, he has to, in order to get everything to go away, they have to continue finishing the game.
I was going to say regarding the 1869 scene, it's like really dark and like it's funny how that intro immediately jumps to the 1969 and it's all happy and sunny. And
if you just look
the
at
music is happy. You know what that reminded me of?
No,
the Burbs intro.
Oh,
like how it's
funny. I could see what you're saying, but I didn't think of that myself.
Like it just, I don't know if it's the music. Maybe it is. I don't know if this music in this movie is done by the same. Oh wait, no. I think Jerry Goldsmith did the music for the Burbs. Actually, yeah, I know that he did. But anyway, it was just a very similar type of dark intro, and then bam, suddenly it's happy and bright and sunny, and the music sounds.
As a kid,
happy.
I didn't. It's like I knew it was dark, but like, what's funny, I was watching it this time, and like, if you just looked at the music of the very beginning and kind of that in the imagery, like dark, the woods and stuff, yeah, you would think like the Wolfman's going to come out and get them. Like it seems like it's going to be like a scarier film.
Yeah,
but you and I were talking beforehand, and I was saying how I realized this time there's a lot of like heavier, more like sadder themes or adult themes in this movie that I guess I never really quite picked up on as much as I did now. But they kind of mix it with a lot of light stuff and funny stuff.
Yeah.
And silly antics, but then there's a lot of this heavy stuff going on too. And we'll save that big thing for the end, but like, you know, the themes, but like there's a lot of, it's kind of going back and forth. Like it's kind of dark and funny, or I mean, it'd be kind of dark and like heavy. And then next thing you know, it's kind of more fun and silly, you know, and they just keep going back and forth.
They kind of pepper it in there, like between dark things, you'll see.
But you know, I appreciate that. I really do.
It balances it out really well.
So I thought it was funny at the beginning. The dad, you know, Alan comes in. He's getting beat up by these boys. He comes in there. He's talking to Carl, which, by the way, I never noticed that Carl's apron actually says Soul Man on it until this most recent viewing. He calls him the Soul Man, both as a kid and when he sees him later as an adult. But yeah, his actual apron at the shoe factory says Soul Man on it. But anyway, I thought it was funny is the dad kind of gets on to Carl about why are you letting him in here? You know, this isn't a playground. And it was just kind of funny to me. Like, you're the father. What are you harping on him for? But I don't know if that's supposed to kind of be showing right away. Like there's a disconnect. It's like they're father and son, but like it's like almost like he doesn't know how to be a father, maybe, or he's so used to maybe talking to his employees a certain way that he almost treats his son the same way. Like there's not quite this super connection with them. Like, I don't know. And, I was looking at it and, I started to wonder. So, you know, there was two movies that came to mind as I was in this most recent time, or franchises, I might say. One was Peter Pan.
Okay. I also thought of Peter Pan. Yes.
Okay. And the second one was It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
So,
and the Peter Pan thing came to my mind for two reasons, but we'll talk about this one first.
Okay. So for me, you know, it's a tradition in Peter Pan to have the same person that plays the father to also play Captain Hook. And even though
that's exactly what I was about to reference. Yes.
Right. Okay. So in this,
you and I are on the same page.
What's his name? Jonathan Hyde, I think his name, plays Sam Parrish, Alan's father, and
Correct.
Later plays Van Pelt. And I don't know if this is what they were going for or what, but I was thinking, okay, in the beginning, Alan and his father don't really have this close relationship. In fact, they're arguing a lot. They're fighting each other a lot. So in a way, you could almost say that the father is kind of like, for the kid, Alan, it's like his villain in a matter of speaking. Not to say they hate each other, but like it's kind of like his heavy, aside from Billy the Bully and his gang. But then by having the same person play the Van Pelt, which is like his adult nemesis, I was kind of thinking, like, is that supposed to be like kind of like they were saying, like his enemy of his youth is kind of in his mind reminds him of his father, because like almost like his father was always there in a matter of speaking, but as an enemy that's literally trying to kill him? I don't know if I'm overthinking it or, you know,
No, that not at all. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I was going to also say the other side of the coin as far as a Peter Pan reference is obviously because Robin Williams was in Hook playing Peter Pan. So
yeah, that's true.
Those were the two things I thought of.
Yeah. Now, what's funny is they have he constantly keeps telling his son, Billy and his little gang, they keep beating up on him. They're trashing his bike and all this other stuff. And he says, like, you're going to have to face your fears. He immediately leaves the factory. They come up behind him, and I kind of feel like almost like he had his arc right there. They attack him, and he doesn't run away. He faced his fears right there. Like, he didn't run away. He didn't even call it for help. He just like kind of let it happen. He knew that he couldn't fight them off. There was like, I think, was it 5 or 6 of them to him, just him. So he kind of faced his fears right there. It almost seems like maybe that should have been something where once he goes back, like once he kind of goes back to his younger self after facing his real, like these really heavy fears in the future, that almost like that should have been a scene when he comes back again. Well, I've already faced this really big thing, Van Pelt and all these other dangerous animals, and I lived in the jungle for 26 years. This bully kid is nothing. And like, I almost wonder if it would have been better for that. Like when he comes back, these guys come out to get him, and this time he, I don't know, does something heroic or is able to fight them off because now he's used to fighting, again, dangerous animals and Van Pelt. Like maybe that would have been a little more satisfying to see him be able to take control of that situation after all those years of experience. Because what's kind of cool about it, and we'll talk about this more at the end, he and Sarah get to relive their life with all this knowledge of what's going to happen for the next 26 years.
Right.
So that's kind of cool, anyway, but I thought it was interesting. At first I thought maybe it was only the children heard the drums, because the box which holds the game ends up being near a construction site. And there's all these construction workers leaving for the end of the day or whatever, and the drums are going. Alan's walking into the construction site. No one else seems to notice these drums. And the same thing happens when Aunt Nora, when she's about to leave Judy and Peter to get on the school bus, the drums are going. Judy and Peter hear them, but she doesn't seem to respond to. In fact, they almost do a little joke where like she kind of pauses, and you think almost like she heard it, but you realize she doesn't hear it. So I kind of wondered, is this something that only children, because they showed the kids in the beginning, they obviously played it. Alan and Sarah played it as kids.
That
Judy
was my
and Peter
assumption. Yeah,
play it as kids. And then the French girls at the end, everyone's kids. Now I'm assuming the only reason that adult Alan and Sarah were able to keep playing it is because they started it as kids. But I don't know. Maybe I'm again overthinking it.
Here's my assumption: is I always assumed that the game reaches out to kids because it takes a lifetime to get through the game, and then it resets.
I guess, but that's also assuming every time someone plays that someone gets stuck in the jungle. I don't know.
Yeah,
I kind of thought it seemed a little random, like what comes out of the game, but it kind of also made me wonder, is the game, and again, this is probably me thinking way too much into it, but is the game like a parallel dimension? Is this some kind of pocket reality? Like, like when he goes in, he's there for 26 years. It's not like he's like just stuck, on pause, so to speak, for like 26 years. He's living a life. He's growing older. He's, gaining experiences. Which also made me wonder, is Van Pelt technically a part of the game? Was he sucked into it too? But then again, he is on the cover of the box. Even, I don't know.
Yeah, I always kind of assumed that the game was somehow like the jungle was somehow, I don't know, like encased within the game.
Well, see, I don't know. I was kind of taking it again, not as a kid, I never thought about this, but now I was kind of thinking of it more as a gateway.
Yeah, I guess either
That
way
it's
would
not
make
literally
sense.
the game, but the game is the way it's manifested in our world, maybe. And when you go through the portal,
Okay.
you actually are in this like jungle. I don't know.
Okay.
But I know they
I
don't
mean,
technically go into that. But I
they
was
don't.
curious
Yeah.
if anyone thought like anything I did, and I did find where some people on Reddit were talking about different
Well,
ideals of alternate dimensions and whatever.
I did. Now, I won't say that I enjoyed any of the sequels, but I did see them, and I only saw them like once. Well, maybe there's been 2 sequels, right? I might have only seen one of those once, and then the newest one I didn't even see. But I think they go into that jungle in the sequel, and it's supposed to be a direct sequel, as far as I know. So I think that they might touch on that. Like maybe they address.
If you read the Zathura book, it even shows, I think, how the Jumanji game is actually at the very beginning of that book. And I can't remember if they say it's the opposite side of the board was the Zathura game. It's kind of like almost like the Jumanji game and the Zathura game are one of the same. But have you ever seen Zathura?
No.
Yeah, so I didn't see it until I heard people talk about it, that it's basically like a sequel to Jumanji. And I did finally watch it maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can totally see what they're saying. In fact, I guess in the book, they say that these 2 kids from down the street find Jumanji. If you read the Zathura book, it's the same 2 kids from the end of Jumanji that find that game. And then, like I said, I think they flip it over instead, though. And it's a different game, but it kind of does the same kind of stuff.
I see. So
you could almost consider what do they call it? A spiritual sequel, Zathura, the game. I mean, I'm sorry, the movie.
Right.
It's not technically. They don't make any mention of the events of Jumanji, but in a lot of ways, it is kind of, you could see how it's tied to it. You know.
Right. Yeah, I could even I sort of vaguely remember seeing like trailers for Zathura when I was,
I liked
older.
it. Me and Benji watched it, like I said, maybe 4 years ago. It's geared toward kids, but I liked it still. John Favreau directed that one.
Now,
And,
isn't what's his name in it?
Yes, him. Yes,
I think he is.
Yes.
From originally he got his start on Punk'd, and then he got into acting.
Are you thinking of Dax Shepard?
Yes,
because he is in it. Yes. Kristen Stewart is in it.
I think Kristen Stewart is Dak's wife, isn't it? I think. Aren't they married
in the movie?
Oh wait, no, Kristen Stewart. I'm thinking of someone else.
Tim Robbins is in it.
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins is in it, and that Josh Hutchinson or whatever his name is from Hunger Games, he's in it too.
Okay, no, yeah.
Well, anyway, watch it sometime. I think it's worth watching at least once. In fact, I'm trying to get a hold of it so I can watch it again. But
okay. Dax Shepard's wife is Kristen Bell, not Kristen Stewart. So
okay.
That's why I was confusing it.
So, Robin Williams, you watch his movies and he's really all over the place. He's doing a lot of voices and impressions. He's like a rubber band man. He's, just
as we see
around
with
everywhere.
Like Aladdin, it's like a perfect example.
Yeah, but and Mrs. Doubtfire and all that kind of stuff. He's just all over the place. But this movie, he's kind of almost like I guess he kind of did that a little bit in Hook. He was a little more honed in, but this is kind of continuation of this. He's kind of on Robin Williams, like compared to his usual shtick.
Yes, it's a little more dialed down, which makes sense for the character.
But I appreciate it. In fact, I'm not like the biggest Robin Williams fan myself, but I would definitely say that this is my favorite movie of his.
Okay.
But he's kind of funny because he's kind of all over the place too, but in a different way. So he comes out of the game, and he's very happy and excited to be free of it.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, he's kind of more like like he seems more jolly, and then he goes immediately to sadness because he realizes his parents are gone.
Yeah.
And then he's like kind of angry. This is my house, and
it's
he's
so sad.
He's all over the place. Then he's like kind of almost turned into his father because he's like kind of talking to Peter the way he, I guess, feels his dad talked to him. The whole like, be a man, don't be crying. That's not going to help anybody. Blah blah blah. And like he doesn't want to give Peter any kudos for doing that. Swing down and grab the game in the river.
Yeah. Yeah, Peter was looking for that from him, and he didn't get it, which was another sad moment.
I like how in the movie version compared to the book, everything that comes out of the game doesn't just affect the house; it actually affects the whole town. And
so are you saying? I mean, I haven't read the book. You're saying that the book, it all just kind of stays confined in the house. It's
contained in the house. Yes, nothing leaves the house.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like what I find interesting is like one of the things I thought was really cool, I didn't realize, is like everything that pretty much comes out of the game, you don't just see it one time and it's done. Like for instance, the mosquitoes, like they come out, they swat at them, and then the next thing you know, they're out the window. But then later, you hear about people like getting sick because of these mosquito bites. The realtor, she gets attacked by the mosquitoes, and you hear the ambulance guys talking about like, oh, it's another one of those crazy bites. We see the mosquitoes again, and then when Aunt Nora is coming back from work or whatever, she hears on the radio about all these people that are ill due to this mysterious illness going around. That's the mosquitoes.
I loved how they put these little dots in the movie that are like little like touchstone moments that you can kind of connect the dots and start to put together as a viewer what's happening in this town. And it's really exciting.
There's the whole thing with the vines, but then the vines later come back and they grab Carl's car. The lion, after he gets trapped in the room, he gets out, and remember, Alan has to deal with him one more time. The stampede, I think we see the stampede a total of 3 times. And that's not even including when
and it's funny. What's funny is the stampede, the animals in the stampede. I always thought it was funny that they all stay together as this like tight group of animals, and they never spread, and they just stay together. All these different animals, like they're best buds or something.
So I actually watched the movie the most recent time. I wrote down everything that happens and in what order, and who rolled to get it. So
okay,
all right. Sure. So the first thing that comes out was the bats.
Yeah.
The second thing is in the jungle you must wait. The third thing is the giant mosquitoes. The fourth thing is the monkeys. The fifth thing is Alan's return and the lion. The plants. Seventh thing is Van Pelt. And the eighth thing is the stampede, which includes elephants, rhinoceros, zebras, and pelicans. The ninth thing is Monkey Boy for cheating. The 10th thing is the monsoon, which includes flooding and crocodiles. The 11th thing is the quicksand. After that, it was not really like an event. It was the lesson to be learned. Go back a turn.
Yes.
After that was the giant spiders. Then the earthquake, which the house splits in half. And then the 15th thing was Alan wins the game. So there are 15 rolls to get through this whole game.
Wow, that's good information.
But there was something. What was it? There was the monkeys. We see the monkeys countless times throughout the movie. Van Pelt, obviously, he's kind of becomes like, because what's interesting, it's kind of like V'ger in Star Trek, the motion picture. It's kind of this faceless enemy, right?
Yeah, and it wreaks havoc on everything.
Right, but what did they have to do? They had to give it a face. So by having Ilea basically become assimilated, now there's a sort of way to face V'ger where you can look it in the eye and talk to it. And in a way, you have all these crazy animals, but they're just animals. They're just kind of doing their thing. But Van Pelt is like the one thing that, something of Jumanji or Alan can talk to and see and have, direct conflict with, as opposed to just running to get out of the way.
So Van Pelt is the game player user interface.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, because yeah, they're running from the animals, they're running from the trying to the quicksand or whatever, all these other elements, but Van Pelt is like the one thing that they can directly face, or at least Alan specifically. And what's funny is I don't know why exactly, he says at one point, stop your quivering, woman, I could have shot you at any time. So he doesn't seem like he has any real interest in them. He's using them to lure Alan. What is his big issue of Alan?
I think it's because I always thought it was because Alan was the one that rolled, right?
Well, yeah, I understand. I think Alan what I mean is you get the impression that even in the jungle, Van Pelt was hunting Alan. So basically, the whole time Alan was there, aside from all the other elements he was in, animals that he was facing, he also had to always be on the run from Van Pelt. And I'm just trying to figure out what is the big deal with Van Pelt. I mean, they kind of, like, at one point, which Sarah says to him, like, what's his issues with you? Or what's he say? Something like, oh, I don't know. Maybe he wants to have my head on the wall, next to the other big game that he caught. Now, have you ever watched...
The way she described him was so funny. She was like, you could have mentioned there was a man in there with a rifle who hunts people.
Yeah. Now, did you ever watch the cartoon?
No. I do not think I mean, I may have seen it as a kid, but it was so like bizarre the way the animation style was.
Yeah, I'll give you that. The animation style was weird. I remember one time flipping through and like seeing it and kind of maybe watching for a few minutes, but I did go back and I looked at the first episode. So what's funny is oh man, I wish I could think of his name. The guy who does the voice of Patrick Star from SpongeBob. It's him. He's doing Alan. So I was listening to this voice and I'm like, oh, that's got to be him. And sure enough, it's him. But anyway, so in the animated version, what's happening is the kids get sucked into the game jungle with Alan.
Okay.
So I guess the way it works in the mechanics of it is when you get pulled into the jungle, you get like a clue. And if you can solve the clue, you can go back. But the problem was when Alan played the game as a kid, he didn't get to see his clue because he got distracted. Like he looked away, like his mother called him. He looked away and he didn't get to see what his clue was. Then he got pulled in the jungle. But the kids, when they go in, basically they know what their clue is. And he helps them every episode figure out what their clue is. But the hope is that they would eventually be able to help him get his clue so he could get out of the jungle himself.
Oh, I see. So does the whole show then just take place in the jungle?
No. So it's kind of like every episode, from my understanding, every episode they come back to our world. And then the next episode, they play the game to go back in where they encounter Alan in the jungle, blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha. I understand.
So what's interesting about it is the character, remember I said in the book how there was the tour guide, the lost tour guide that comes out of the game?
Yeah.
But he's not in the movie, obviously. That character does appear in the cartoon.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it sounds interesting. And like I said, I think it went for 3 seasons is what I was looking at. I went 96 to 99.
Yeah, I think I remember it being, a big hit.
But yeah, it was the animation style is weird looking. It's kind of different, like long faces, like really like, I don't know, stretched out kind of looking faces.
Yeah, there was another show on Nickelodeon at the time that looked similar to that as far as animation style. And I don't remember what it was called. There was a guy who was like kind of like the hunter, or maybe he was like a tour guide, and he was
the Wild Thornberries.
That's what I'm thinking of. Exactly.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, Nigel.
Yes. Nigel Thornberry is such a funny. It's a funny voice.
Did you ever watch a TV show, Psych?
No.
There's this. It's Tim Curry. He's this character, Nigel St. Nigel. Every time I hear the name Nigel, I want to say St. Nigel. But anyway.
Well, Tim Curry is the voice of Nigel Thornberry, as far as I know.
And he did a voice in Jumanji, the animated series too.
Oh, really?
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So I notice when Alan goes to smash the case that's holding the sword, he says, "Sorry, Angus." And at one point earlier in the film, when Peter and Judy are first getting to the house and they're pulling like the sheets off the furniture, Peter pulls off, I think it's Peter, pulls off a sheet off like a statue, and it's this guy.
Okay.
And then later they show when both when Alan's young, he drives his bike by, you see like a statue of a guy on a horse. And then later when they show in the towns like all run down and there's graffiti everywhere and like people just like laying, like setting out like homeless people, you see the statue again, but it's got graffiti all over it. Well, first things first, when I was looking at the book, that statue of a man on a horse is in the park where Peter and Judy find the game. And then when they put the game back. But in the movie version, I'm pretty sure they say it's Angus Parish. So it's basically like Alan's, I think, forefather or something. I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's like they kind of gave him a name of that person.
Yeah.
You know, I think they really just lifted it from the book and put it in there, but they decided to give him more of a character, I guess you might say. It's like like I guess the parish has been set up that town, or they've has some deep involvement with that town.
Huh. I like that. I like that a lot. That makes sense. Fits the character good.
Right.
Good character development.
Yeah, I thought it was funny how, just like in the real world, so all this crazy stuff's happening and some people are running for their lives and some people just decide to start looting. They go to what's it called? Sir Saves a Lot.
Yeah, and as far as I know, that actually was a real chain of stores.
I never heard of it, but man, they had everything. They had toys, they had like clothing.
Yeah, we have a store down the road. We have a store down the road from us called Ollie's, and it's very similar.
Yeah, well, it kind of reminds me of here in Michigan, Meijer.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So, do you notice? Technically, they have Peter break the fourth wall when he's going to get the axe.
Yes.
Tool shed.
Yes.
He can't get in. It's locked. He picks up the axe. He starts chopping away, and then he realized, wait a minute here.
And he looks right at the camera like, what am I doing?
I remember that in the theater. I liked that. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I remember too, like he's picking up the axe and thinking like, wait a minute, there's an axe right there. Yeah. That was good.
That was a clever bit.
I like little stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's funny, going back to something earlier when we were talking about how when Alan was stuck in the jungle and he was there until someone rolled a 5 or an 8. And the saying says, in the jungle, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8. But when Robin Williams delivered this line, and he was quoting that to Sarah and the others after they started playing later on in the movie, the way he said that sounded off. And I was always bothered by this when I was a kid, and it still bothers me.
The way he's kind of mocking her?
No, the way he so he's quoting, in the jungle, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8.
Yeah.
He's quoting that, but the way he says it, it comes out sounding bizarre. Like almost as if he flubbed the line, but they kept it in the movie anyway.
I never noticed that.
It sounds more like he says something along the lines of until the dice revolver gate, like, or something like that. It's like, it sounds really odd. Like I can't even.
Okay, I watched it like 3 times in preparation for this. I can't say I noticed that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I don't know. I just thought it was odd, but yeah. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack.
You're fine. So, have you ever seen It's a Wonderful Life?
I don't know if I have.
Well, you should. If you haven't, it's
I know of it.
A great movie. I watched it with my dad for the first time when I was a kid. Anyway, so I was talking about how besides Peter Pan, the other movie this kind of reminded me of in this way was It's a Wonderful Life. Now,
okay.
It's a Wonderful Life. The town is called Bedford Falls, and even the little town square that you see a lot kind of reminds me of the little area, like with the statue and everything, like where you see him riding his bike at the beginning and coming back as an adult, and it's like I said, all run down. Mm-hmm. But in It's a Wonderful Life, what happens is the main character George Bailey, he gets to see. That's James Stewart, by the way. He gets to see what his life would be like if he had never been born. And so basically he's like nobody. He gets to come back to his town, and of course he's alive, but he's not George Bailey. He's nobody. George Bailey doesn't exist. So you see like all the people that he's affected, and you see how the town is actually, because he's affected all these people in the positive way when he didn't realize he did, the town actually goes in the gutter. Like, it's, you know what I mean? And like, if you look at the town in this movie, like it starts off like, you know, just a nice little town. And then you look at it when he's out, he's been gone for all this time. He comes back and it's like the same thing. You see a lot of homeless people, you see graffiti everywhere, you see stores are closing, you know, it's just, it looks dirty. It just, you know,
no, yeah, I
doesn't look like the most nice place to live anymore. And it kind of reminded me of that. And then the fact that he gets to relive his life, and he, like, with this new knowledge of what he's learned, kind of, and I know that's weird, but he gets, you know, he gets to come back to his life as George Bailey again, knowing what he saw, knowing how things could be, knowing what he's done and how, you know, he's affected people. And it's kind of the same thing with this. Alan gets to relive his life as a child with all this foreknowledge. And I don't know, I know that sounds maybe a little off, but in a way it kind of just reminded me of that. And then the other thing was at the very, very end of It's a Wonderful Life, because it's set during Christmas at this time, everyone's together at their house and they're singing Hark the Herald Angels Sing, which is the exact same song they're singing at the end of this movie. And I don't know if like they were going for, like, if it's coincidental, if this is something they were going for, but I definitely saw some It's a Wonderful Life parallels. And since I like that movie so much, you know, I thought it was pretty cool.
No, yeah, that's a cool little tidbit they threw in there. I'm sure that was on purpose.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, like, you know, when they get and everything gets reset and rebooted and they get thrown back to 1969, I don't know if they retain all their memories or not.
I believe only Sarah and Alan do. Nobody else, not even Peter and Judy. So yeah, I think.
No, yeah, I get that. That because they
know, right? They know everything that's going to happen. You know, that, or at least, you know, everything that they can remember. But, you know, which again is kind of like where George Bailey, when he gets to come back, it's not like he's gaining future knowledge, but he's gaining, he has knowledge of what the world could have been like, or what his life or other people's lives could have been like without him. So it's not like future knowledge, but it's per se, but it's like special knowledge that he only knows because he has seen this, like almost like a parallel timeline. And in that small way, not only with because, you know, there's time jumps like we talked about, but the fact that Peter and Alan and Sarah get to go back, you could almost say this is kind of a time travel movie. There's a very small element of time travel. They are time travel, their minds, their consciousness, their memories, their everything they know, essentially their adult minds go back and they get to relive life. So in a way, it's like they time traveled.
I totally,
which is also very cool.
I get that, and I agree. Yeah, there are three significant time jumps throughout the movie, and then at the end they jump back in time. So there you go.
But, you know, it's like, you know, again, I never thought about this kind of stuff as a kid, but like now I look back and I think, or look at it and think, you know, where did the game come from? What makes it supernatural? You know, the whole idea of a gateway, a portal, another dimension, you know, like stuff like that. It doesn't really matter, but it's my mind kind of goes to those things where I wonder about this sort of stuff.
When I watched the movie in preparation for this with my boys, at the end of it, my son actually asked the question, so where did the game come from? And I was like blown away by that, because honestly, I've never even given it any thought.
I never have until this time.
Yeah, me either. And
he's ahead of the game on me.
I just couldn't even like I was like, oh my gosh, this is a crazy thought. Like, I've never thought about this, and it's amazing just to think about the possibilities of where like potential stories could go. With answering that question.
I only saw the first sequel to this movie, not including Zathura, the Welcome to the Jungle or whatever it's called. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, they actually showed the game as it was in this movie, right? And then it morphs into a like 16-bit or 8-bit retro video game thing, right?
In the sequel, I believe so.
So
I
like
believe they show it. Yeah, like
it's like in a high school like storage room or something that these
well,
kids
because
are on.
think about it. In the 95, like in 1995, board games were outdated, and they were doing video games by then. They were doing Sega
Right, but
Genesis
I'm just saying the
and
fact that
Nintendo.
you actually get to see the game as it was in this movie, in that movie before it morphs into the video game, right?
I don't know if it morphs or if they just show. My memory of the sequel is they just show the cartridge Sega Genesis style video game system, and that's the Jumanji that we have for the sequel.
Okay,
And
well, anyway, all I was just getting
that-
at is that the fact that I thought in my mind I thought it morphed. I thought you literally saw it like transform into the like not
I just don't remember if it does or not. It could have. I just don't remember.
So you watch Frasier?
No. I did back in the day, but
okay.
I remember little to nothing about it.
So the actress that plays Aunt Nora plays Frasier Crane's ex-wife, Lilith, in Frasier.
That I'm aware of.
Okay. So there's a part where, she's basically been, I'm assuming at work, and she's coming back to town. She has no knowledge of what's been going on. And you hear that she's listening to self-help tapes. And when she goes to switch to tape 2 or whatever, that's when the radio comes on and she starts to hear like, 16 people have been hospitalized, mysterious illness just before she sees the stampede. I thought it would have been kind of a cool little wink if she was listening to Dr. Frasier Crane on the radio. I just thought funny. Like, oh man, I wish they could have done that. Like, and then like she switches stations there or something, and then she, whatever. But I don't know. I get it. They probably didn't, have the rights to it or something, or
Frasier fans would appreciate that sort of
I thought that would have been cool.
Yeah. I know you're a big Frasier fan.
Yeah, I've watched it numerous times over.
Yeah. Have you seen the new show, by the way?
No, I've watched maybe like the first minute's worth of the first episode, but it just didn't grab me. Maybe I need to give another go, but
I haven't seen it.
So like I said, this most recent time I was watching, and we talked a little bit about before we recorded, I noticed a lot of like heavier, darker themes going on. Themes of loss, isolation, regrets, fear, things that I didn't quite pick up on as a kid. Maybe I was just, I don't know, everything seems so much easier, and you don't have any life experience at that age, But
right, there are things that I think they put in the movie that you don't really perceive as a kid, but adults get it.
So, Alan, he has fears, okay? He's, he's getting bullied constantly. I don't know if you would say he's afraid of his dad, but definitely him and his dad aren't seeing eye to eye. It's like they don't really have a good relationship. Like I said, his dad, you would almost say is like, I don't want to say a villain, but like, I don't know. They're not really, and that's another thing. Father and son, like they're not really functioning like father and son. He almost feels like his dad by sending him away to the school. Like, what's it, Cliffside? Like almost like he doesn't know how to have a relationship with me. Like he just wants to send me off. That's how at least he kind of feels about it.
Yeah, they're at odds with each other.
Yeah. He says the line, because, there's this rumor since Alan disappeared that his father, some people say he murdered him and chopped him up and hit him in the walls. And, adult Alan says, my father could barely hug me, let alone murder me. Like it's signifying just how strained their relationship was, or at least how strained he perceived it to be. Obviously, Judy and Peter are dealing with the loss of their parents. Judy deals with it by lying constantly. That is her way of, I guess, distracting herself, or I don't know, like by just messing with people in that way. That's
it. Probably takes the edge
escape. Off. Yeah, that's her escape. Peter, on the other hand, doesn't talk to anyone aside from Judy. He, and it's just interesting, and then, isolation, Alan talks about how, obviously he was left alone to learn how to survive for 26 years in the jungle, and he was all alone. And it's, and then Sarah talks about how, she was the last one to see him alive. So she becomes, she tells people what happened and they think she's crazy. So she kind of becomes this recluse, so to speak, and she says how, I was all alone. And he says, so was I. And like, yeah, she was physically with people because she wasn't, in the jungle, but basically how even still they were both alone in different ways.
Right.
It's just interesting to me, like these themes that I didn't really pick up on as a kid, or maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's so much more you pick up on watching it as an adult.
Right. It just like I said, the way it kind of goes back and forth between this action-packed, thrills and humor, and something kind of yikes, a little dark and heavy, the storm clouds, I don't know.
Right.
Like almost like I know maybe this is really reaching, but like certain things could almost even represent, the plants want to tie you up, and I've struggled with depression. So like being tied up or feeling tied up mentally, like that's like in the plants, it's like a visual or real world representation of how you can feel, you're feeling tied up.
I
The
totally
stampede,
see that.
These animals come crashing through and they destroy your world the way, for me, again, anxiety and stress and fear, and all these things I struggle with, depression. It kind of feels like that, like something's literally coming through and just destroying your world. Monkeys coming in, wreaking havoc. I know, again, this sounds like a stretch or maybe sounds kind of cheesy, but it's, again, I know it's not, but I can also kind of view it on a different level of, like someone's trying to kill you, you just, someone's after you. I feel like all the time, I feel like people just are, I feel like, sometimes it feels like people are just hate me or just out to get me. Like, it just feels like
it can feel like that.
Nobody
really
likes you.
I don't know. You can really easily lose perspective in the face of perceived failures. You can lose perspective and you can feel like the world is just out to get you.
Yeah, failures is one, not to get sidetracked here, but yeah, failures is one I also struggle with. Regrets and failures. I remember there was a point in time where every single day I would think about my regrets and like what I wish I could do. And that's another thing too, here where Alan and Sarah, they get to relive their life up to, and they get to change things. And I thought so many times, man, if I could go back in time, I would do this differently. I would do that differently. I would, go left instead of right, and, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I still struggle with depression and fear and anxiety and stress, but and regrets, but I'm trying harder to not, it's like these regrets, these things that I should have done or shouldn't have done in the past. There's nothing I can do about it now. And I think, I've been trying to pray about it more and try to just ask God to try to help me to, what's done is done. Just try not to make the same mistakes again and try to be better. It's not easy, but I always, when I talk to people about this, I say, it's like this, I think of it as a ladder, a never ending ladder that just keeps going up. And every day I have to keep climbing up. And sometimes I slip and I slide down a few rungs or maybe a lot. But the point is I have to keep climbing. It's not always easy. And sometimes I just want to give up. But, anyway, I kind of got deep there. I wasn't trying to, or
no, it's fine. I was going to say, I've heard that analogy before, except with the illustration was of a staircase, and there's always going to be another step to go up. And I remember one time someone who made that point to me, I remember having this discussion with the same discussion with them. And I think I remember asking them at some point, is there ever going to come a point where there's not another step to take? And I think their response was something like, yeah, it's when you die.
Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds kind of that whoever said that to you, I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but just saying when you die, Yeah, but I mean, well, us as Christians, we believe in heaven and hell, and
Yeah.
so I
Right.
think heaven is the paradise we're trying to get to be with God, and well, it's not just
I
about
agree.
heaven; it's wherever God is. That's where our peace is. The ideal that in the Bible talks about many people that they were imprisoned, they were shipwrecked, they were beaten and crucified and starved and all these other things, but because they had the peace of God, they were
persevered.
content. That whole people often, I think, are misunderstanding the Bible verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I think some people like to quote it just like that, and it makes it sound like basically if God strengthens me, I'm gonna just succeed in everything. But if you read the verses that come right before it, it talks about I can be up, I can be down, I can be filled, or I can be starving, I can be healthy, I can be sick. Basically, he says, as long as God is with me, I'm okay, because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Which, we can
get through whatever life throws at us.
Yeah. Again, not an easy thing to do, but anyway. But like again, maybe putting too heavy of a spin on these animal attacks. But I was thinking like,
no, I get it. I totally get it.
You could easily use these analogies of all these different things happening to the characters. I know it's just supposed to be fun and it's just supposed to be an adventure, and it is. But if you wanted to look at it on a deeper level, you could almost use it as a metaphor for the issues for the human condition. I don't know.
And I think the adults who made this movie and other movies like it, they're aware of all of this, and they throw these things in there for the adults to pick up on. They're not just making a two-dimensional, fun, happy-go-lucky kids movie. They're giving the adults something to chew on as well during the viewing of it. So towards at the end of the movie, and right before like the house splits in half and all that, Judy, I think, it gets poisoned by one of the plants.
And it's another great point where everything makes a comeback. Every animal, everything you see makes a comeback. But
I was just
that's when they're really in trouble. Like she gets, basically she's dying right there. He says,
well, that's my question. My question was, does she die there, or it kind of looked like she did?
I'm thinking basically, she was gonna die here soon, and I know
that does sound really heavy. Right?
She falls to the floor, so I'm assuming if she wasn't dead at that point, she was going to be. But I think that's kind of the beauty of the game, is that in theory, as long as somebody keeps playing the game and makes it to the end, everything is undone. So it almost didn't matter in a way, because as long as the other three were content to, they're going to keep going, we're going to push through this, everything's going to be undone. So it's cool, kind of like the never ending story where, the horse sinks down and the nothing picks up the rock biter and all these people, everything's destroyed. But once, Bastion gives her the new name, everything's restored.
Yep. And everything at the end of he comes to the end of that at the end of the movie, and everything's kind of reset and rebooted, and and then we have the game end, and they jump back in time to 1969.
But I love that last scene where Van Pelt he has him and he's like, throw that, drop whatever you're holding, and like I love how they did the thing where the first dice falls right there and you can see what it lands on, but the other one keeps toppling down like this giant like crater. And like I love how it just keeps going while they're talking, like run, I'm through running, my father told me I had to face my fears, like, oh, so great. And then finally, right before it reaches the thing, the number he needs. But of course, also I thought it was cool the way they had Sarah rush in, willing to, I guess, take a bullet for him. Like she was willing to, because I mean, I guess they're supposed to have liked each other as kids, but it's like you can see the romance starting to go throughout the movie for him. But I thought that was great. And like he fires, And like I love how the bullet, like it's getting pulled back. I love that. There's a similar scene in Lara Croft Tomb Raider where
never saw it,
where someone throws a knife at this guy, and because she's able to manipulate time in the end, she sees the dagger being thrown, and she spins it around, and then when time resumes, the knife actually goes back to the guy that threw it. It's just kind of a cool scene. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool, but that's kind of what it reminded me of in a matter of speaking. But
that's on my my notes. But all
right,
I did have one thing that I kind of wondered about, and it goes back to earlier, right after the scene where Alan comes out of the game and they take care of everything, and he goes back to the house and gives himself a haircut and a shave. There's a line there that I never understood where she says, "What happened to you? You shave with a piece of glass?" And his rebuttal to that was, "What happened to you? The Clampetts have a yard sale?" And I never understood.
Okay, the Clampetts were the family from the Beverly Hillbillies. And I think the way her hair is even braided, it's kind of like resembling Ellie Mae Clampett, which was the teenage girl, the daughter character from that show. So basically he's making fun of her wardrobe. He's saying
it was kind of a strange deep cut referral.
I mean, it would be an older show that he would have been familiar with. The Clampetts, Beverly Hillbillies. He's making fun of her, saying she dresses like one of the Beverly Hillbillies.
That makes sense. Okay,
I'm assuming specifically Ellie Mae Clampett.
Okay,
let's wrestle. That's
the movie version is good too. Yeah.
So anyway, before we go, just want to let anybody know out there that we do have a link tree up. You go there, you'll get all the links. We're on all the major podcast hosts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and I don't know, probably a few others can't remember. Dave has set up a new Facebook page for us that is also on the link tree. And we have a Instagram, which is also on the link tree. You can email us any suggestions, give us any grief about anything we got wrong or failed to mention, any suggestions, whatever. If you want to leave us a review, we would appreciate it. Tell your friends, all that kind of business. Anyway, now that we got that out of the way, let's go to the final thoughts.
Okay, final thoughts. I guess that my final thoughts go to the theme of this movie, and that is just to count your blessings and, enjoy people that are around you and focus on, what matters in life.
Excellent.
I don't know how more concise I could be with it.
Yeah. I just said, I think it's got the perfect blend of action and adventure and comedy. It's got, the slightly more heavier themes that we can, or at least we are relating it to our real life. And you said it great. Count your blessings and,
appreciate people. Because with his, it goes back to specifically, I think of his strained relationship with his dad at the beginning of the movie. And then at the end, they have that huge hug, and he's got that extra 30 years of knowledge in his brain of what happened, and he's like, I've got my dad back. I need to make sure that I don't mess up this relationship.
And even that, like you just said, that made me think again of It's a Wonderful Life, because it's type of thing where he's getting stressed out about all the problems he's having in his life, and he's like, he's kind of sharp with his wife, and he's, a little short of his kids, and he's not appreciating the things that he has because everything else seemingly around him is falling apart. That's a great point is, my wife tells me this all the time. Like, she's always trying to remind me when I'm down of all the things I have going for me. And it's hard in that mode to think of it. It's like I got these walls up. All I can see is the problem I'm in right now.
It's hard to be objective.
But I think this is an A movie. I think it's great. Some of the effects, are dated, but I don't care. They're
not too bad.
I find it charming. I mean, there's a lot of movies now that have bigger budgets and more modern technology, and the effects look terrible. And I like that they, were trying. They did CGI where they had to. Like, obviously they couldn't have that full lion moving. It just would be really hard to do.
Right.
I appreciate what they did. I think it's an A movie.
Yeah, they did the line great with, like, half of it being the robot up close.
Yeah, there was a guy too. There was a guy for the paws. They were like, I watched some of the behind the scenes. There was a guy wearing the costume for certain shots, and then some of it was a full robot, and then obviously CGI. What was your grade?
I mean, I would give this an A plus.
Right. Cool. Well, which one? A or A plus?
A plus.
All right.
It's a great. I mean, I'm not going to call it a perfect movie, but
yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, it is.
There's
I
think I
enjoyed
movies
it
out there
so
that
much.
Are perfect.
Yeah, I had found a newfound appreciation for it these most recent times watching it.
Makes perfect sense. I see that.
Well, that's gonna do it, right? We're done.
I think that says it all. Yeah, that does it.
Thank you for listening. For anyone that did listen, thank you for, like I said, liking and sharing and subscribing and leaving reviews, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. So another thing I want to say though before we go, Dave and I were talking. We're trying to get this relaunched. We started this in 2016, and life has gotten in the way and other responsibilities where it just hasn't really. We haven't been able to stay on with like we wanted to. So we're hoping and praying we can try to get it going for real this time. But one of the things I had expressed to Dave is like, I wanted it to, I like movies. I like talking about movies and TV shows. It's fun. But I like to have it mean a little more. Because movie reviews, it's fun and great, but in the end, it's just that. And Dave and I are both Christians, and I had said to him, I wanted to do a little more something with it. So, I just want to say, anyone out there, Jesus loves you, and Jesus is the only way. And you, if you're in a tight spot, you can call on him and he will hear you. And I just want to say that and leave it at that. If you ever want to email us about prayer requests, I'd be glad to take them. And that's about it. So God bless you.
Any prayer requests or any thoughts or anything, we have the email address set up, which is what is that email address again? escapepodcast16@gmail.com. There it
Alrighty.
is.
Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye.
I said, what does God need with a starship?